Hi guys, my name is Rachel Delaney, and I'm doing my presentation over Erik Erikson. So to introduce Erik Erikson's psychosocial stages of development, he believed that part of humans' personality is within 8 different stages of the psychosocial development. And these 8 stages begin with infancy and they go all the way up to adulthood. Erikson believed that each person will experience some sort of crisis in each of these stages, and that crisis may lead that person to either a positive or a negative outcome. Each stage involves the needs of a person at a particular age. In failure to comply with those needs, a person may not be able to complete future stages, which may result in an unhealthy development. So, with that being said, that basically means that if a person is going through a particular stage and a crisis happens and they fail to get through that crisis and they fail to develop through that, they may kind of be stuck in that stage of development, even if their age says otherwise. But the cool thing about Erikson is that he also believes that if something like that does happen to a person, it's not impossible for them to go back and rework that to then later be able to move up to their stage of development. So here I just have a picture of Erikson's 8 stages. His first stage is trust versus mistrust. Second stage, autonomy versus shame and doubt. Third stage, initiative versus guilt. Fourth stage, industry versus inferiority. Fifth, identity versus role confusion. 6, intimacy versus isolation. 7, generativity versus stagnation. And 8, integrity versus despair. So I know that these 8 stages go all the way up to adulthood. So for our class or anything pediatrics or anything child related, you may only go up to stage 5 or 6, depending on the person. It could be sometimes you can teeter totter between stage 5 and 6 once you're getting into that adulthood areas. So some strengths of Erikson. If a person does not fully succeed in a stage, that does not mean that they cannot go back and eventually fulfill that stage of development, kind of like I mentioned earlier. Also, each stage is easily identified when observing a child. And what I mean by easily identified is that when you are observing a child and you are paying attention to the toys they're playing with, and if they are wondering how much they can do and how well they can do things, you can kind of base that off into their stage of development. Also, each stage explains that a child what a child may feel during that stage, including any issues or fears that a person may experience. So for me personally in my field, I am able to observe a child and be able to tell which stage they are in by the way that they are feeling and the way that they are talking to me and showing me how much they can do and what they can't do. Some weaknesses are that not every person may follow the stage in order. Everybody's different, so everybody develops on their own time. Stages may be completed out of order for some people. That doesn't mean that those stages will never be completed, they just might be doing it in a different order, a different way. Also, a person's environment could really influence if they are moving too quickly or not moving fast enough through a stage of development, which could hold people back a little bit or kind of push people too far forward for their age. So play. Play is supported by Erikson's theory of psychosocial development by explaining what each person will experience during each stage. By explaining what each person will experience, you're able to figure out what kinds of toys and or play is best for that child. For example, in Erikson's stage of initiative versus guilt, children may feel a lack of sense of control. They may feel like they they want to choose things on their own. They want to do things on their own. They don't really want people to pick for them. They feel that they can do it all on their own. So a good thing for a child in this stage is to give children lots of choices with if they want to eat peas or carrots for dinner, if they want to play with the red truck or the blue truck. Do you want to play inside or outside? Like choices like that will make that child feel like they're in control of their body and their life, and that kind of validates them, and then they will later be able to move on through further stages. So my personal observations. Something I've personally observed in my classroom during lab is my focus child who is 1 years old. She's in Erikson's stage of autonomy versus shame and doubt. And in this stage, a child may be learning to do things on their own, or they may start to doubt their abilities. So my focus child is always lifting her arms up. She's wanting to be picked up and moved everywhere she goes. She wants help up and down the stairs, up and down the climbing area. But she's almost 2 years old, and I have seen her do all of these things on her own before. And the teachers always joke around that when I come in, she all of a sudden can't do anything because she wants to kind of trick me into like, hey, this girl can help me. but I've seen her do all of it before. So one time we were playing in the climbing area of the room. She had climbed all the way up to the top of the climbing wall, and she wanted to get down, and I was standing next to her, and she was like, "Help, help," kind of crying, and she didn't have tears in her eyes, but she had a sad face on, and she was kind of crying, and I stated her name and I was like, "You can do it. I've seen you do it before. Like, you are a big girl. Like, you got this." And I was just encouraging her that she can do it on her own. And when she finally did come down with no help, she had a big smile on her face. I gave her a high five. I was like, "Yes, like you did it. Like, great job. I'm so proud of you." And that was able to validate that she can do it on her own and she doesn't need to doubt herself on those little steps. And these are my references. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you.